Young star, why you cry? Why don't you let your light shine? Feeling blue, misguided, no direction. Why? Let me tell you, only one thing to do. Young star, be still to listen to. Don't be afraid of what you're meant to do.
How certain church members would just, you knew they didn't really have the means, but they would give you money. And I always think about that. It's like we get so busy and we're also pressed to make it. But really, one of my passion points is helping young people. And that comes from just simply the people that helped me along the way. So that's a motivation factor.
I grew up in a post-civil rights neighborhood. And I think, a lot of people don't really get what that means. It means that you had this group of people who were told, first of all, everything that they did had to be separate for a very long time. And then suddenly, the movement put them in a position where they could get an education. They could live in the same neighborhood as everybody else, right? But the movement wasn't necessarily about values. And so, in this neighborhood that I grew up in, there were these little old ladies that we called grandma. And there was a bunch of them that everybody called them grandma. And this one lady lived next door to me, and she called everybody baby. Baby, come on in here and let mama do something for you. And when I was a kid, she used to always talk to me. She would call me on the phone in my house and say, baby, come over here and talk to mama. Now realize, y'all, this was not my real grandmother. But she would always say, baby, come talk. And when I would come over there, she would ask me how school was. She said, what are you going to do when you're real smart one day to help you? Mama cooks for you. Mama helps you with this. You could come over here and do your homework. But what are you going to do to help somebody else? When I got to college, I suddenly realized that that woman had reached out to me in the community. And it continued to happen in my life. While I was in college, there was a gentleman who saw me in the lobby of the Union one day on my way back home. Because I wasn't always Will Murphy with the suit. Will Murphy came from somewhere between the hood and somewhere between what was about to be a wealthy environment. And it's very confusing when you have people who don't go to college and just live street, and people on the other side that go to college and they live a different life. And so while I was in school, I was going through that confusion of trying to understand, did I need to play the street game, be a DJ, do all the other stuff that went with street, or did I need to go ahead and finish this education? Long story short, this gentleman pulled me aside one day as I was going through the Union. He said, what are you going to do this summer? And I was like, I'm going back home. And he was like, what are you going to do at home? I was like, chill out, play basketball, hang out. I had never done that any summer, but that summer I was like, I'm done. I really wanted to quit school. He said, well, no, you're going to come to my office next Monday. I said, well, I'm going to be in Houston. He said, well, you're going to come back. He said, I want you to call me as soon as you got home. And when I got home, he basically told me, do you have a resume? And I said, no. He said, well, I need you to create a resume, and I need you to get it to me by tomorrow. I mean, he was just like pushing me. And I was like, who is it? Why is he pushing me like this? I filled out my resume, got it back to him. He said, I need you to be up here next week with a suit. I have no suit. I mean, the suit I had that I wore to church, it wasn't a real suit. It was polyester. And I ain't have no real suit. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It was shiny, real shiny. Right? You walk up in corporate America with a shiny suit on, you look, So long story short, I came back, right? And I met him in his office, and he laid out my resume. He said, okay, I want you to go to this meeting with this executive. I want you to sit down with him, and I want you to tell him you want this job. And I said, okay. And I said, well, so I'm going to get an intern? And everywhere I'd been talking to people about how they had interns, they were in inroads and all that stuff. And I didn't have all that, because I wasn't no straight A student, because I picked the wrong major. So he was like, yes. So I got this intern. Within a week, this same gentleman called me to his office and said, you got the job, I'm proud of you, blah, 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 blah. He said, okay, now I got something for you. And he had this closet, and he opened it up, and there was a rack full of white shirts. And I said, oh, okay, what are those? He said, these are yours. He said, these are all dress shirts. And I want you to take them home, figure out which ones fit you, because I got a belly, you don't, and wear these shirts to work. And I was like, okay. And I was overtaking y'all, because I never had anybody just come out like that and just do something like that. An executive, not being selfish. And then he said, and this is for you too, and he gave me an envelope. And I opened the envelope, and it was $200. He said, go buy your first suit. So I went, got my first suit, came back with the shirts on, had to look, and you know, guys would understand this. When you buy a suit, they have this little tag that goes right here. So, I never bought a suit before, so I rolled in. I was like, nah, this ain't no new suit. One girl, she said, let me help you out. She took the tag off. She said, whenever you get a new suit, you have to take these off. So from that story, what I'm trying to tell you is, you know, it's funny how life just coaches you. I was being coached in how to be an executive. And that same guy is still in my life today. He still mentors, and any project he has, he calls me and says, I need you to come talk to these teams or whatever. And you guys, here's the biggest problem with us right now. We're selfish. We want to go get a fly car, a fly house, and trust me, I've been there. When you have a 6-figure salary, it goes straight to your head. I pre-ordered a custom BMW, and I had a loft a block from here that I was about to buy. And I suddenly realized, if I spend all this money on that, who can I help? And would you tell the truth? I had a loft downtown, and I threw the flyest parties you've ever seen. Crazy. Champagne, chefs. I mean, people were like, man, this is like some dream. Where do you get this? But I realized in that process, and there was a divorce in the process, that made me understand that if I would spend all that money showing off, I wasn't going to help anybody. And so that's where it really starts. You got to make that decision that it's not just about your $250,000 5-bedroom home that you only live out of 2 bedrooms. I'm going to be real with you because a lot of us have it. And that's not stepping on your toes. It's just being real. Downsize a little bit, and that money that you don't have to spend on that mortgage or that lease, you'd be surprised what you can do with your life and what you can do with somebody else's life.